This may be one of the biggest Joe Rogan stories in a long time, and it kind of dovetails into another story I've got probably for tomorrow about Gen Z, the groups of people in Gen Z, how they're making changes to their life to actually be happy. This could potentially be one of the biggest seismic shifts in America, in particular young men, that would just I can't, I can't see it as anything but a massive, massive good thing. And so let's get into the story. No ads today, other than just reminding people I'm live Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Monday through Thursday Eastern, and 1 p.m. Eastern on Friday, over on Quartercast. If you watch on Rumble, great. I want you to stay there. But I really want to grow the Quartercast channel for people that just don't want to download another app or whatever. I'm live every day with Hannah Claire, Melanie Mack, Luke Rodowski, and many more. We had Ian a couple of days last week, Ian Crossland. There's the show, but then I also pull one or two segments out of each show in case you don't want to watch the whole episode. So please give that a subscribe and tune in today at 2 Eastern, or watch it later. That would be absolutely great. So here we have ex-atheist Joe Rogan makes major life change after revelations on a podcast spark a resurgence of Christianity. Now, a lot of you guys know I'm religious curious. I'm not super religious. I'm certainly not someone that, forces on people, says that people have to have it to be happy. I think people should make their own decisions. And even as I get more and more interested in joining a church, I don't think you're going to see me making videos telling people to join churches. That said, Joe Rogan, starts going to church as a faith resurgence gains momentum, Christian apologist claims. This is not dissimilar. This article came out in the New York Post. Gen Zers who are actually happy are saying yes to religion and family and no to social media. I mean, this in the face of the Democrats trying to throw 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars to try and get their own, left-wing Joe Rogan. Let's look at what this individual has to say.
Joe Rogan and I have had on and off communication since then. I can tell you for a fact that he is attending a church, and that that has been a consistent thing. And so, things are happening, and he's a very inquisitive individual, and I think for the better, in that he's communicating with me and other people in his life who are influences that can speak into these issues of reliability and trustworthiness and verisimilitude of something like the pages of scripture, and where he should and shouldn't be looking for the information in regards to that. Joe Rogan and I have had...
I don't know what a Christian apologist is. It sounds negative, but it seems like this guy's just like a religious guy. Joe Rogan, a self-described atheist, has apparently had a spiritual awakening, is now attending church regularly. According to a religious scholar, Wesley Huff, who appeared on Joe Rogan Experience back in January, the famous podcaster is now going to services regularly on a consistent basis. Huff said on the You Know What to Believe podcast that he stayed in contact with Rogan since the 3-hour interview, where the two men took a deep dive into Christianity and the Bible. Joe Rogan and I have had on and off communication since then. It comes just weeks after Rogan admitted he quit alcohol due to concerns around the impact on his health. Huff added that Rogan is a very inquisitive individual and has been looking for reliable and trustworthy sources of information regarding scripture. Here's what I can say as somebody who is kind of going through something similar. Maybe it's, you're getting older, your body doesn't feel as good anymore. I've been really contemplating just flat out quitting alcohol too. And I'm not ashamed to admit that it was Joe Rogan that made me really think, what? It's just not worth it. I would never judge somebody, and I don't judge people for having a couple beers on the weekend. But for me, I don't have a great relationship with booze. Like, I have an addictive personality. I always have. And it seems like, I bounce from smoking to pills to booze to gambling to it's always something and it's always bad. Like I never get addicted to working out, And so I've often thought, hey, maybe I need to just make that declaration and say, because I can't just have one. I never have been able to, I have to have 10. And that's not a hard thing to admit. You guys know I'm an open book. Oftentimes people will use stuff like that against me, people that dislike me, but I don't care because the trade-off is I get to be honest with my viewers. And I think, alcohol is probably why I get anxiety. The two things seem to go arm in arm. And so, I've been really thinking, I've even tried twice and I kind of fell off the wagon. But, I think the key is that you try and then you make it a little bit longer each time. After this Memorial Day, I told my wife, I'm going to quit, period. Because I think when I'm always like, I'll just take a month off, then the whole time you're thinking about only 29 more days until I can drink. You know what I mean? It's just because that's my own personality. And Rogan's difference was, he just wasn't feeling good. In addition, I think it would be cool to replace liquor with church. That'd probably be a good thing. I think maybe going to church will help me, In addition, Rogan noted that his interest in Christianity was beginning to see a resurgence in recent months, with many teenagers reportedly seeking out more information with the Bible. We have had someone who reached out to us as at Apologetics Canada, who is probably the last brick-and-mortar Christian bookstore that I've ever heard of, the 34-year-old scholar revealed. They said, we have people walking through our doors asking young people saying, I want a Bible. All my friends are reading this thing, Huff said. Now, I think that there's very reasonable things to criticize about organized religion. I mean, obviously, at least in Christianity, every religion has its thing. Christianity has, the priest cover-ups. That other religion has the, explodey people. But I think in general, even non-fire and brimstone type church, just a run-of-the-mill, non-woke church is good for people. It's good for community. It's good for just to go feel good and focus on something good for an hour once a week. And Gen Z is doing the exact same thing. And the fact that he's out here, I think that people that go to church are generally good people. Not everyone, right? So if Joe Rogan comes out and he starts supporting going to church and getting curious about church, this would be a great thing, I think, for this country. Again, I'm not a, religion's a cure-all thing. I know that there are problems in the faith, but I do think generally people that, getting involved in church, getting off social media, being healthier is probably a good thing in general. It's the goods just simply outweigh the bads. Shortly after a dip in rankings, Rogan invited Huff onto the podcast, one of the most popular in the world. Huff went on to say that he observed a growing number of young people seeking Christian faith. He referenced a recent message from a bookstore where teens have been coming in asking for the Bible. Data backs the trend also. According to a new study by the American Bible Society, there has been a rise in Bible use from 38 to 41%, with notable gains among young people and men. Millennials saw a 29% increase in Bible use from 24 to 25, and men saw a 19% increase, closing the long-time gender gap. I'm part of that. I'm a millennial. I started reading the Bible in between 2024 and 2025. It's hard to read it. It's hard for me to read. I'm very ADHD, but I just try to sit down and read a little bit of it, and I accept I'm not going to retain most of this, but I kind of just go through with it, Among Gen Z, scripture engagement rose from 11% to 15% in 2025. If the Bible is, becoming popular with teenagers, then something is happening and the Lord is moving, the Christian apologist continued. I mean, I think that this is one of the biggest bombshells for Joe Rogan, and potentially between more people reading the Bible, the Maha movement. I think it's good that people would have more positive influences in their life, that they would, be interested in reading the Bible or attending church or becoming active in their communities. These are good things, not bad things. And even people who I'm not saying I'm never going to be that guy. Like I said, I'm not going to be like, you got to go to church, you got to have kids. People live their lives. I don't judge them. But I'm just sharing my own kind of, it's not a reawakening because I've never been religious in 42 years. I've never, I went and got confirmed like all kids do or whatever. But, I'm definitely, and it's, probably a lot of, hey, you're getting older, mortality is more of a thing. But for me, it's more like I need to invest energy. Like instead of arguing with people on Twitter, maybe just put my phone down and read the Bible for a half an hour. Which of these two things have which one's better for me? And I think people are seeing that. And I think if Joe Rogan becomes, I don't think he's going to become an evangelist, but, here's
The
a
difference between
clip.
science and religion is that science only asks you for one miracle. I want you to believe in one miracle, the Big Bang.
Yeah. That's a good one.
It's a great line.
Yeah.
It's because it really is true.
Yes.
And it's funny because people would be incredulous about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, but yet they're convinced that the entire universe was smaller than the head of a pin, and for no reason that anybody's adequately explained to me that makes sense.
Yeah. No.
Instantaneously became everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't buy that.
I'm sticking with Jesus. on
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
Jesus makes more sense.
It makes.
I mean, I don't know who that individual is. This is Huff, son of missionary, born in Pakistan, grew up surrounded by religion. Okay. Well, that's the other guy. I think it's cool that it's a comeback. I think it's cool that young people. Here is something also that he was gifted.
Before this was discovered by C.H. Roberts in the 1940s, the convention was
This is that guy.
because
Yeah,
of
earlier
a
guy.
guy named C.H. Bauer, that the Gospel of John was 2nd century. And so he had this, he was a student of Hegel.
I want to get to the
Second
gift right
century.
here. Hold on.
Literature, a way that the side.
Wait, where is this? Is this it? Oh yeah, here.
What is your personal belief when it comes to the resurrection? What do you think happened? Do you have
He objected,
talking about?
and I get that.
I'm trying to see here.
There's something else.
And
yeah.
and the
Many people saw his body, right?
well, Paul says that 400 people saw him all at once.
400 people saw the crucifixion.
No, saw the
this-
resurrected
resurrection.
Jesus. Yeah, 1 Corinthians 15, Paul says that Jesus appeared to the disciples, the feeding of the 5 only.
Oh, so he doesn't have the clip.
individuals both prior
Well, anyway,
to and after.
Huff says John's eyewitness account was probably describing how he made the gift. Huff said, I cut this out of potpourri with a scalpel and then transcribed text onto it. So, I mean, this is pretty cool, I think this is good. What do you think? Even if you're not religious, right? I think young people moving to religion, Joe Rogan moving to religion, is in general a good thing. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. We'll talk to you again real soon.